Everything changed the moment Prince Harry allegedly saw the name. Not just any name, her name, attached to something she had never mentioned, never acknowledged, never explained. A hidden Soho House membership record quietly sitting in a private system that wasn't supposed to exist in his world at all. And according to insiders close enough to feel the shockwave, the moment Harry realized what he was looking at, the silence in that room became louder than any argument ever could. Because this wasn't about gossip anymore. This wasn't about old photos or recycled rumors. This was about access.
So the whole time we're thinking that that's her husband, Jack Brooksbank. It turns out, guess who that mystery man was the whole time?
Was it Meghan's guy?
It was Marcus Anderson.
Marcus Anderson, yeah.
Why is she having dinner with Marcus Anderson, and why is he then going home with Meghan and Harry?
Secret access. And the terrifying realization that the woman he trusted with everything might have been moving through a private network he didn't even know she still belonged to. By early 2026, the images people once dismissed as harmless resurfaced with disturbing clarity, Meghan Markle and Marcus Anderson appearing side by side again and again across timelines and exclusive locations, not occasionally, not accidentally, but consistently, predictably like two figures. Bound by something deeper than friendship, something structured, something deliberate. And what shook observers the most wasn't just their presence together, but the pattern itself. The fact that wherever she appeared, whether it was Paris Fashion Week, private family trips, or discreet high profile gatherings, Marcus was
attended the garden party and overheard something Meghan said to Harry. So after about 15 minutes talking to guests and being charming, Meghan turned to Harry, and I quote from Lady C's book, "Harry, this is really boring."
Always there, never absent, never disconnected, always within reach, reinforcing the uncomfortable question insiders had started whispering behind closed doors. What exactly tied Meghan Markle to the inner core of Soho House in a way that seemed immune to time, marriage, or even royalty itself? English Soho. Because here's what most people don't understand. Soho House isn't just a club, it's a gatekeeping machine. It's the invisible web connecting billionaires, celebrities, political figures, media power players, and cultural architects, all operating behind walls designed to protect secrets, not expose them. Membership isn't automatic. Membership is selective, membership is controlled, and membership leaves a trail. A trail that, according to insiders, Harry never expected to find connected directly to Meghan in a way that wasn't explained to him when their lives first merged. Because publicly, Meghan was always portrayed as someone introduced into Soho House through Marcus. Someone attending as a guest, someone dependent on his access, his approval, his sponsorship. But what insiders now claim changes everything is the possibility that she wasn't just a guest anymore. That at some point, quietly, discreetly, she may have obtained her own access status, one that existed parallel to the version of her life Harry believed he understood. And the timing couldn't have been worse, because by the time this alleged discovery surfaced, Harry had already sacrificed everything familiar for her: his royal identity, his proximity to his family, his security inside this structure that had protected him his entire life. He stepped away from centuries of tradition, believing he was stepping into something honest, something transparent, something real. But insiders say the moment he saw evidence suggesting Meghan's continued private association with Soho House under terms he wasn't aware of, something shifted inside him. Not instantly, not explosively, but quietly, dangerously, like a fracture forming beneath the surface of something that once felt unbreakable. Marcus Anderson's name kept appearing in proximity to hers, not fading over time the way most friendships do when lives evolve, but strengthening, persisting, remaining embedded in her world like a constant presence immune to change. He wasn't just someone from her past, he was still there, still involved, still connected. And insiders claim that when Harry began retracing the timeline, looking back at at the early days of their relationship, he realized Marcus wasn't just present at the beginning. He was present at every critical transition point that followed. The introduction, the private meetings, the curated environments where their connection deepened away from public view. Marcus wasn't observing from the sidelines. He was orchestrating access to environments designed to shape outcomes. And then came the detail insiders claim Harry couldn't ignore. Soho House operates on sponsorship, on internal approvals, on documented affiliations. People don't just drift in and out anonymously. Their presence is recorded, their privileges defined, their access categorized. And the suggestion that Meghan's name existed inside that structure in a way Harry hadn't been told about created a question that couldn't be easily dismissed. Because if her access wasn't dependent solely on Marcus anymore, then her relationship with the network existed independently of him, independently of Harry, independently of the life he believed they were building together outside that world. Insiders say Harry didn't confront her immediately. He observed, he watched, he listened. He replayed moments in his mind that once seemed harmless, but now carried different weight. The Paris images where Marcus walked beside her with familiar ease. The Disneyland outing where his presence was partially concealed behind an emoji, raising the question of why someone so close needed to be hidden at all. The quiet gatherings where introductions happened without explanation. The invitations that arrived without visible origin. The access that seemed to appear effortlessly, invisibly, repeatedly. Because here's the uncomfortable truth insiders say Harry began to understand. Soho House isn't just about places. It's about people. It's about relationships maintained through discretion, through loyalty, through silence. And if Meghan still existed inside that network in a capacity Harry hadn't been told about, it meant parts of her world operated beyond his visibility, beyond his control, beyond his understanding. And for someone who had already given up his entire identity to protect their shared future, that realization cut deeper than anything else. Nick Jones, the founder of Soho House, built his empire on one principle above all others: secrecy. What happens inside stays inside. Access is granted quietly, affiliations remain protected. And insiders believe that if Meghan's connection extended beyond what was publicly acknowledged, it would have been protected by the same system designed to shield its most valuable relationships from exposure. Because Soho House doesn't just create access, it preserves it. It maintains it. It ensures it survives regardless of changes in status, geography, or public perception. And Harry, for the first time, found himself confronting the possibility that the world Meghan came from hadn't disappeared when she married him. It had simply evolved, adapted, continued operating alongside their new life, quietly, efficiently, invisibly. And the most unsettling part wasn't just the existence of that connection. It was the possibility that it had never truly been severed at all. Insiders say he became quieter after that, more observant, less reactive, because sometimes the most devastating realizations don't explode outward. They settle inward. They reshape perception. They alter trust. They force questions that don't have easy answers. Questions about loyalty, about transparency, about whether the version of someone you fell in love with was ever the complete picture to begin with. And as whispers about hidden affiliations, silent memberships, and undisclosed access points began circulating inside elite circles, one reality became impossible to ignore. Meghan Markle's relationship with Soho House wasn't just a chapter from her past. It might still be part of her present. And Harry was only just beginning to understand what that truly meant. The moment the realization settled into Harry's mind, insiders say everything about his behavior began to change. Not in loud, obvious ways, but in subtle shifts that only people closest to him could detect. Because Harry had always been someone driven by instinct, someone who trusted his emotions completely, someone who leaped before he hesitated, but now hesitation had entered the picture like an unwelcome guest that refused to leave. And it wasn't just hesitation about the past, it was hesitation about the present, about the invisible lines connecting Meghan to a world he thought they had both walked away from, a world defined by Soho House, where access wasn't just social, it was strategic, where relationships weren't just friendships, they were currency, and where loyalty wasn't measured publicly, it was measured privately, behind doors that never opened for outsiders. Insiders claim the exact moment Harry allegedly confirmed the hidden affiliation didn't come through confrontation, it came through pattern recognition, through noticing how invitations appeared without explanation, how certain doors opened before he even knew they existed, how Meghan moved, through elite circles with a level of ease that suggested her access wasn't new, wasn't borrowed, but established, deeply rooted, and quietly maintained long before he ever entered her life. It wasn't just about one record or one moment. It was about what that record represented. It meant continuity. It meant permanence. It meant Meghan wasn't simply someone who had been introduced to Soho House through Marcus Anderson and left that world behind when she stepped into royal life. It meant she had retained something independent, something private. And Marcus Anderson's presence suddenly carried different weight in Harry's mind. Because Marcus wasn't just a mutual friend anymore, he wasn't just the man who arranged their first meeting, he was the architect of her introduction to a network built on selective access and strategic alliances. And insiders say Harry began to realize that Marcus had never truly stepped out of Meghan's life, never loosened his proximity, never reduced his influence. He had remained there consistently, quietly, persistently, like a shadow that never disappeared regardless of circumstance. Because Marcus wasn't visible in public statements, he wasn't highlighted in documentaries. He wasn't openly acknowledged in the narrative Meghan and Harry presented to the world, but he was there, in the photos, in the timelines, in the background of moments that were supposed to belong to their private life. And insiders claim Harry began asking himself a question he had never asked before. If Marcus was still present, still connected, still involved, what exactly was he facilitating now? The deeper Harry looked, insiders say, the more unsettling the timeline became. Because Soho House wasn't just part of Meghan's past before the royal wedding, it appeared to remain part of her ecosystem even after they had left royal life behind. Even after they relocated to California even. After they publicly redefined themselves as independent figures building their own empire outside the traditional structures that once defined them. Soho House existed in multiple cities: Los Angeles, New York, London, Toronto, Paris. It was a global network, and Meghan's access to that network, insiders claim, never truly disappeared. What shook Harry wasn't the existence of Soho House itself. It was the secrecy surrounding Meghan's continued affiliation with it. Because secrecy implies protection, and protection implies something worth protecting, something worth keeping separate from public view, something worth preserving regardless of consequences. And insiders claim Harry began connecting moments that once seemed harmless, but now felt loaded with meaning. The Paris appearance in October 2025, where Meghan and Marcus were seen walking side by side, comfortable, familiar, synchronized. The Disneyland outing, where Marcus's identity was partially hidden behind an emoji, raising the question of why someone so deeply integrated into their lives needed to be concealed at all. The consistent pattern of Marcus appearing not as an occasional visitor, but as a permanent fixture in Meghan's orbit. Because here's the truth insiders say Harry began to confront. Soho House wasn't just a place Meghan used to visit. It was a network she understood intimately. A network that understood her. A network that had witnessed her transformation from actress to duchess to independent global figure. And if she still retained hidden membership privileges inside that system, it meant she retained access to the same invisible infrastructure that had helped shape her rise in the first place. Insiders say the emotional impact on Harry wasn't explosive. It was internal. It was psychological. Because betrayal doesn't always come in the form of actions. Sometimes it comes in the form of omissions, in the form of things left unsaid, in the form of realities discovered too late to be easily dismissed. Harry had built his entire future around Meghan. He had defended her against his own family. He had chosen her over the institution that defined his identity. He had believed in the narrative of starting fresh, of building something separate from the influence of elite networks and royal expectations. But the discovery that Meghan may have retained private affiliation with Soho House challenged that narrative at its core. Because Soho House represented more than social access. It represented independence, it represented leverage, it represented a parallel power structure operating quietly alongside public life. And insiders claim Harry realized that Meghan had never been entirely disconnected from that structure. She had simply navigated it differently. Marcus Anderson's continued proximity suddenly appeared less like coincidence and more like continuity. Less like friendship and more like infrastructure. He wasn't just someone Meghan knew. He was someone embedded in the system that granted her access to rooms where influence was exchanged without witnesses, where opportunities were created without announcements, where alliances were formed without public acknowledgement. And the question insiders say Harry couldn't escape wasn't whether Meghan still had access. It was why he hadn't known about it. Because trust isn't just about loyalty, it's about transparency. It's about knowing the world your partner exists inside. And insiders claim Harry began to feel like there were rooms in Meghan's world he had never been invited into. Rooms that existed beyond the life they shared publicly. Rooms connected to a network that had always protected its own. Nick Jones built Soho House on discretion, on protecting members from exposure, on ensuring that relationships inside its walls remained insulated from the outside world. And insiders believe that protection extended to Meghan in ways Harry had never fully understood until it was too late to ignore. Because once you realize someone has access to a world you can't see, you begin questioning everything connected to it. Every invitation, every meeting, every unexplained opportunity, every familiar face that appears without explanation, every moment that once seemed ordinary but now feels orchestrated. And insiders say Harry's silence following the discovery spoke louder than any confrontation ever could. Because silence isn't always acceptance. Sometimes it's observation. Sometimes it's processing. Sometimes it's the mind recalibrating itself around a reality it never expected to confront. Meghan never publicly addressed the rumors. Marcus never stepped forward to explain his continued proximity. Soho House never acknowledged anything beyond its standard commitment to discretion. And that silence allowed speculation to grow, allowed questions to linger, allowed insiders to continue whispering about hidden affiliations and undisclosed access points that existed beyond public visibility. Because the most powerful networks in the world don't operate publicly. They operate privately, quietly, strategically. And insiders say Harry's alleged discovery forced him to confront the possibility that Meghan's relationship with Soho House wasn't just a stepping stone in her past. It was an enduring connection that had survived every transition in her life, including him. And as Harry stood inside the life he had built around her, insiders say one realization refused to leave his mind. The woman he thought he knew completely still had doors in her world he had never seen. Doors that had never been closed. Doors that might never close at all. Never close at all. Never close at all. Never close at all. Never close